Hello everyone, welcome to another edition of Jay's Big Adventure. Jay is not with me today, he's off having an adventure on his own. So one of the questions that we keep getting asked, and I've been riding motorcycles for 40 years, is what would make the perfect first motorcycle? What should I buy to learn how to ride on? I think it may just be this Yamaha FZ-07. Here's why I think that. One of the hardest parts of learning how to ride a motorcycle is how to control it at low speeds, how to make tight turns, doing a U-turn in a parking lot, getting in and out of the garage. When you're paddling around at walking speeds, that's when you're most likely to drop it. This is a very light bike. It's under 400 pounds dry. It's got a relatively low seat height. I think it's 27 inches. So even a shorter person can get both feet on the ground. And because the wheelbase is short, it turns pretty quickly, and it turns around in a parking lot without taking up a lot of space. A lot of people know they're going to want a cruiser or a Harley, and so they buy a big, heavy motorcycle, and all they do is spend a lot of time worrying that they're going to drop the bike. I actually have a video on the 5 biggest mistakes that beginning riders make. One of them is buying a new bike. Don't do it. This bike is 2015. I did not know what that was. I wanted to make sure I wasn't going to get eaten. Anyway, there are big mooses and bears and who knows what, oh my, around here. Anyway, that was just the gate. Anyway, back to the video. So this is 2015. They can easily be had between $4,000 and $8,000. 2015, 16, 17, the bikes are pretty much all the same. And as a 700cc bike, it's big enough that you're not going to get bored after 3 months. A lot of folks buy a 300 or 400cc motorcycle. They go to the dealer, they buy it brand new. They buy it for $5,000, and in 3 months they're bored. They go to get rid of it, and they find out on trade it's a $2,500 motorcycle. So now you've spent $500 a month to own a motorcycle that doesn't suit your needs. This bike is also in that $4,000 to $6,000 range, $4,000 to $8,000 depending on how late you go. But it's a 700cc parallel twin, and you can ride this for several years. Chris, the owner of this bike, actually bought it as her first new bike in 2015. She's ridden it for 4 years, but I think 30-some thousand, 40-some thousand miles on it. And she just bought a 2016 BMW R1200R. But this motorcycle served her for 4 years, and she rode it with me. And I'm on a K1600 GT that's 160 horsepower. So when we're going out and going around cars, she needed something that would actually get up and go. And this thing really does get up and go. Now, as with all motorcycles, one of the things that people like to do is modify them and personalize them. And Chris has done some really smart things. She's added some sliders. There's one here on the rear axle. If the bike falls over, it'll land on that. Might get the end of the peg. Then they have these really cool custom-made sliders specifically for this bike. They tie into the original engine mount locations. And if the bike falls over, it'll fall on that. And you can see that's actually happened. What it has done is protect the expensive parts like the clutch case, in this case the water pump, and the parts that are going to strand you if it falls over on a trip. She's also added some bar end weights. These help quell the vibration from the engine, and also if the bike falls over, it'll actually land on that first. A tail tidy is purely cosmetic. It just gets rid of the rear fender, makes the bike look a lot nicer. She's got one of those on there. And then she also has a built-in USB charger that she can use to charge her phone. But enough talking about the bike. Let's see how it rides. Got this nice little digital display. Gives us our RPMs across the bottom, speed, fuel, and then the gear indicator on this particular bike is getting old, so that doesn't work all the time, works some of the time. But gives you your gear indicator, speed, RPMs, fuel, and then there are the normal warning lights for charging, oil light, and temperature. This bike has a combined start and stop switch along with the starter. So now Let's see how it goes. One of the things I want is a bike that's really maneuverable. And at low speeds, because this is so light, it really turns. I'm really I'm used to my bike, which always feels like I'm trying to turn the Titanic around. This thing is really, really light and maneuverable. Let's go see how it does out on the open road. Wow. I'm really impressed. We're in fourth gear, 6,000 RPM, and it just gets up and goes. Good grief. Boy, I tell you, there is something to be said about lightweight. It doesn't take nearly as much power. It doesn't take as much brakes. Really easy to maneuver. And it just makes this little 700cc parallel twin go like crazy. And we're going up a hill still. We're going to climb from probably close to a mile. We were at 4,500 feet at the base of this. We're going to get up to probably at least 8,000. So definitely makes a difference when you're going uphill versus downhill. But this is really easy to ride. I like it. Very light, very maneuverable. The suspension of this bike is pretty soft. If it were my bike, because I tend to ride pretty hard, I would definitely want to put stiffer shocks and springs in it. This has regular forks, so it would be pretty easy to put a couple of spacers and put a little bit thicker oil in it, and that would stiffen up the front end quite a bit. The rear shock does have preload, but it'd still be nice to be able to make it a little bit firmer. The downside of that is that this bike rides really nicely. A lot of sport bikes are so stiff. It'll just beat you up if the pavement is just perfect. This bike is actually pretty compliant over these bumps. Remember, this is a short motorcycle, which makes it pitch more over bumps and is affected more by the surface of the road than a big motorcycle is. So in spite of that, it still rides really well. I'll be very interested to see how this footage comes out. Again, fifth gear, fourth gear, and away it goes. We are coming up on Solitude. We just went by the Solitude Resort. This is actually the town of Solitude. Solitude Mountain Resort. It's almost like a town. It's about as big as some towns are in Utah. It's probably about the same size as Snowbird or Alta, but the next one up, which is at the very top of the hill, is Brighton. Good day for a red Miata. And it is getting chilly. I wish I had a thermometer to tell me what the temperature up here really is, but it is probably in the low 60s. It was 75 down to the base of the hill, and we've only gone about 8 miles. Cools off pretty quickly as you start climbing. We just came out of Memorial Day weekend, and you can see there's still an awful lot of snow here in the mountains in Utah. Hoping we would get a passing zone pretty quickly. I think there's one coming up. See if we can get around these guys. The upper part of the canyon isn't nearly as tight. It's not nearly as technical. A lot of fun, but the part we just came through is what I really enjoy. And of course, we got all these people in front of us. effortless pass. This is a 6-speed transmission. We're in 5th gear now. Pulling a hill, I don't want to lug it too hard, but it certainly does run quite well. Go around this truck. Man, 70, 75, it just pulls and pulls. This is really crazy. It's not as quick as my K1600 GT is, but I'm amazed at how hard this thing goes for a 700cc parallel twin. The carburation or the fuel injection is really nice. It gives you a lot of confidence when you're rolling the throttle on how much power you're going to get. All these things add up to a really, really nice bike for a beginner. $75 miles an hour, easy peasy. I wish they would post the high score on these things. That'd be great fun. This is one of the many hiking areas that are available in this canyon. We're just going to find a little place to park and take a closer look at the perfect beginner bike. So this is the parking lot of Brighton Ski Resort, and really nice parking lot just to try out the maneuverability of the bike again. A lot of pavement here. And this is just super easy to maneuver. Super easy. Of course, another big scary part of buying a motorcycle is the cost of maintenance. What has to be done, how often does it have to be done, and how much is that going to cost? Good news about all the Japanese brands, Yamahas are bulletproof. They're extraordinarily tough motorcycles. This is a 2-cylinder. It's not hard. It is not hard to do the valve adjustments and the plug replacement if it needs to be done. For starters, you're not taking off a whole bunch of plastic. My bike is covered in bodywork like a sport bike, and the first thing you do is spend an hour removing Tupperware. This thing, not nearly that complicated. Be a lot easier to maintain. That means fewer parts, and fewer parts means less money. Man, I am just so impressed with the mid-range of this bike. This is a steep hill. This is probably at least 6%, 7%. And without running it hard, I'm at 4,500 RPM. Red line's 12. And man, you get to the 6,000 RPM range and it just wants to go. Down to second gear for super tight corner. And up the hill it goes. I tell you what, this thing is an absolute hoot. One of the things about having a large motorcycle as your primary bike is that it is a pain. You know, when you're just kicking around in a parking lot or I got to go run to the store, it's big, it's clunky, it's hard to park, and this thing is just a riot. She said over and over and over again that what she really wants is two motorcycles. She wants a bigger, faster bike to go out and do long distance stuff, and she wants something super light and zippy and easy to maneuver just for day-to-day stuff. This is just a couple of miles from the house. I mean, it's the perfect road, and it's the perfect bike for this road. You could have more power, but unless you want to lose your license, it's not going to be any more fun. There's a little gravel here, so I'm going to kind of tiptoe around this. But man, does this thing go when you wind it. And yet, if you shift early and you keep the RPMs low, it's not going to get away from you. It's not like it's suddenly going to wheelie on you and all kinds of drama. I don't know if this would wheelie on a 1-2 shift, even at wide open throttle, but it's certainly controllable if you keep the revs reasonable. And then as your skill level goes up, I've been kicking around at 4,000 or 5,000 RPM. The thing goes to 12. A little gravelly there. Let's see what it's like. Yep, that is a good time. One of the things I don't like about smaller engines is that they tend to be really buzzy, and a 2-cylinder engine can have quite a bit of vibration. Part of Harley's problem. But this thing, I wish I had ridden it prior to her putting the bar and weights on here, because we're going 50 miles an hour in top gear. It's just under 4,000 RPM. I mean, there's no vibration in the bars at all. I mean, nothing. There's a little bit of a buzz, not even a buzz, but a tingle in the seat. But 50 miles an hour, there's almost nothing. Coming up on the fabulous Silver Fork Lodge and Restaurant, one of the best restaurants in the Salt Lake Valley, and the best Eggs Benedict on the planet. Trust me, I have been searching for a contender, and those efforts have failed. It's a good thing we didn't go tearing through that little parking area there. I think that cop was waiting for me. Okay, we have just been loafing along in 6th gear. There's 5th, there's 4th. Let's get back into fun mode. A little bit of brakes, turn it in, get back on the gas. Make sure there's nobody hiding around the corner, and away we go. With that car up there, I'm going to hold off because the fun part of the road is the bottom part. I think we have to go through that construction zone first. We'll see. I appreciate the fact that he put on the brakes and pulled over, but that wasn't necessary. Not like we're going to have any trouble getting around him. Looks like somebody's moving. And of course, this is getting into the entertaining part of the road. Come back over to the outside, look through the corner, on the gas, a little bit of brakes, outside to inside, back on the gas, And away we go. It's just a little bit tighter corner here, so we're going to give up on that one and get set up for this one. Quite a bit tighter corner here, go down in gear. Come all the way out to the outside so I can get a good run of the apex, which on this corner is super late. And away we go. Well guys, I think that is about it for this edition of Jay's Big Adventure. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, share, subscribe, and if you have a bike that you think would make a better first motorcycle, leave me a comment in the notes. I would love to see what other people are finding out, see what other people are doing, and especially for a bike that is not going to get you in trouble when you're starting out, but has enough performance potential for you to ride for a couple of years. We're about at the bottom of the canyon. I think this is a good place to call it quits for this episode. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, please subscribe, please share, and we will be recording another episode soon.